Brands care about two things in media. One they love, the other they hate. Growth moves brands forward. Waste holds them back. Love growth. Hate waste. At Tinuiti, our technology reveals the truth, enabling our people to create growth for brands that defines the category, and to hunt down waste, the biggest growth killer of all. Do this and marketing can be what we all want it to be. Love growth. Hate waste. Tinuiti. Love growth, hate waste.
All right, welcome everyone. We are really excited to be here with you all today for the 2026 Prime Day panels. We are kicking things off with our first session, the 2026 Shopper, a fireside chat on consumer intent featuring Tinuiti and eMarketer. So in this conversation, you are going to get a look at our 2026 consumer sentiment data, along with some great insights and discussion on what's really driving shopper behavior right now. And after this, don't go anywhere, because as soon as we finish, we're going to jump straight into our next panel, which is the 2026 Playbook. And that discussion is going to feature Tinuiti, Detail Page, and Skye. And it's all about turning these insights into action, what you should actually be doing as Prime Day approaches. So grab some coffee and stay tuned. We've got a lot of valuable information coming your way today. And a little bit about Tinuiti first. We are a media agency that not only builds brands, but architects business outcomes. Guided by its mission to love growth, hate waste, Tinuiti creates immediate and lasting growth for clients. At the center is Tinuiti's Bliss Point marketing operating system, the ultimate brand and performance unifier, which fuels decisions across audience, creative, media, and measurement. And this approach allows Tinuiti to treat each client's business like its own, making smarter decisions faster and with greater accountability. And before we jump in, we are going to go through just a few quick housekeeping notes. So session recording and slides are either going to be sent this afternoon or tomorrow morning, but you can access those on demand from the original link that was sent to you to register. So after the session today, if you go back to that link in your email, you should be able to get the recording. And then if you would like the slides, they are in the Documents tab on the right-hand side of your screen. And if you log off at any time, you can use that same link that's in your calendar hold and in your inbox. And you can also download some of our resources in the Handouts tab in the right-hand side of your screen. You are going to find the 2026 Prime Day study, which just released today. So you have access to that immediately. And you'll find slides there again, our benchmark report as well. So make sure to download all of those. And in the chat, please let us know where you are tuning in from. Looks like we have people from Florida, Indianapolis, Scotland, Pakistan. So that's super exciting. Chicago, I see you there too. So please keep plugging those in there. And then use the chat just to interact with us. That's what makes this event, is being able to engage with our audience. There is a Q&A tab as well if you have questions. But we will get to those at the end of the session. We also have some poll questions that are live that will keep plugging throughout the session. So make sure to tune in on the poll tab on the right-hand side of your screen. And my name is Catherine, Marketing Program Manager at Tinuiti, and I'll be hosting the sessions today. So you're going to see me popping in and out. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over so that our speakers can introduce themselves. Andy, I'll go ahead and kick it to you.
Thanks so much, Catherine. So Andy Taylor, Vice President of Research here at Tinuiti, where I'm charged with keeping tabs on the more than $4 billion we have in ad spend under management annually to discover trends and unpack learnings across search, social, display, streaming, and commerce media. Also run our proprietary survey-based studies, and today we'll be walking through both some data from that ad spend under management, as well as the fresh survey data that Catherine just mentioned from our 2026 Amazon Prime Day study on how folks plan on approaching the event this year. And so with that, I'll kick it to Skye.
Hi, Hi, everyone. I'm Skye Canaves. I'm a principal analyst for retail and e-commerce here at eMarketer, a leading market research firm, and we cover marketing, digital advertising, as well as e-commerce and the digital transformation that's taking place in all of those. And I cover everything e-commerce related to the US. I have a special interest in marketplaces, Amazon, and we'll be putting out our own Prime Day forecast report a little later in May or towards early June before Prime Day.
Yeah, really looking forward to that report and super excited to have Skye here today. She's super sharp and look forward to hearing all of her great thoughts. So today, before we get kickstarted on the core content, we wanted to take a quick poll and see, do you have any feelings on which category you think overperformed expectations last Prime Day? Electronics, home and essentials, beauty and personal care, or apparel and fashion? Just a quick poll to get things going. Looks like early votes are coming in for electronics and beauty and personal care, a little bit of home and essentials. Okay, so a little bit of a spread, but I'd say right now our winner looks like electronics. Beauty and personal care coming in hot though. I don't know. Yeah, so kind of a spread there in terms of where we really saw things overperform last year. But we'll get a little bit more into that product category data later in the webinar. I wanted to kick things off with what we learned in 2025, and certainly the biggest wrinkle last year was that Amazon decided to double the length of the event, going from a 2-day event to a 4-day event, and so that certainly caused some confusion in terms of even how marketers should be thinking about doing year-ago comparisons. At Tinuiti, we decided that the most effective way to think through this would be to take the 4 days of the Prime Day 2025 event and compare it to the 2 days of Prime Day 2024 plus the 2 days that immediately followed Prime Day in 2024. And doing that, we did see some solid growth in terms of the sales attributed to sponsored products, which are the biggest ad format in the Amazon ad console. 5% growth year over year, comparing that 4-day stretch to 4-day stretch. But it did come at a cost. We saw a 20% increase year over year in spend. So we did see that return on ad spend dip a little bit year over year. Don't want to put too much weight into that because there can be changes over time in terms of how aggressive folks want to be with their efficiency targets any given year. But that was a trend that we noticed for a lot of brands, was that it was a little tougher to maintain return on ad spend year over year last year. That said, there was a huge surge in volume. You saw more than 30% year over year growth in clicks and an 11% year over year decline in CPC. And that's really a trend that we've observed across our advertiser base for the last year or so, with volume metrics like clicks really driving the growth, whereas pricing metrics like CPC growth have been more muted or even down year over year for some time. So it will be super interesting to see how that plays out this year. Now, obviously, we saw that 5% growth year over year for the entirety of the 4-day sales event. But if you break it down by day, we see very different figures depending on the particular stretch you're looking at. Comparing just the first and second days of Prime Day to the core 48 hours of the event in 2024, we saw sales down more than 30% year over year, and that certainly makes a lot of sense. I think consumers knew that the event would last 4 days, and so they knew they had more time to do more research, to come back and consider purchases for an extended period of time. And so it makes a lot of sense that those first 2 days would take a bit of a hit as Amazon extended the event. And obviously we see huge surges in sales growth in days 3 and 4. Those days are naturally comped against days that weren't a part of the event in 2024. So a little apples to oranges in that regard, but that's kind of what happens when you extend the event from 2 days to 4 days. But 310% growth on day 3, 443% growth on day 4. So a lot of that growth centered on the final 48 hours of the event. Now, in terms of how those sales were spread across the 4 days, day 1 was still the most important, and that's certainly been a trend that we've observed for the last several years, where the first 24 hours of even the 2-day event were accounted for the majority of sales attributed to sponsored products. But days 2 through 4 all accounted for pretty meaningful chunks of the sales attributed to sponsored products during Prime Day last year, none dipping lower than 19%. And so I think the big takeaway for me here is that advertisers do really need to stay active throughout the event in order to not only get those early shoppers who are jazzed and ready to go in the first 24 hours, but also those folks who are going to take more time and do more consideration throughout the event. And so now, Skye, I wanted to get your thoughts. how do you see Amazon's move to extend the length of the event impacting how consumers view it in the grand scheme of things? Do you think there's a danger here that Amazon ultimately harms the sense of urgency that they created with the 2-day event, or do you think it's altogether a pro in their eyes?
I think overall it's a pro. So we've seen a strategic and gradual increase in the length of Prime Day from that original 1 day. Then they had some experiments with 30, 36 hours until it settled into the 2-day format for a while. And then last year we saw the biggest bump in terms of total time from 2 days to 4 days. While that, I think, as you noted, certainly creates some lulls, it reduces some of the urgency. Over the course of 4 days, and the average sales per day would be expected to come out lower. But the cumulative 4-day impact was a net win for Amazon because shoppers reported that they spent more time shopping and they also spent more money. And we saw from our estimates that the 4-day event would have generated around 73% more total sales for Amazon in the US versus the 2-day format in 2024. So I think part of that move to 4 days, it also has to do with the competition because competing retailers have been launching events that are up to a week long at the same time as Amazon. So Amazon created all of this demand during Prime Day, and then it's spilling over to other retailers that are capturing it from shoppers who may have just missed out with that 2 days and maybe a little too much urgency to get to Amazon. So with the 4 days, they're essentially aiming to win some of those sales back. And I think the combination of continuously refreshed deals on Amazon and their wider selection still gives them a key advantage. And I think, as you mentioned, brands also have to prepare for this new cadence because you do see that early rush and then a later surge. With some slightly more subdued activity in the middle, but still increased activity. And that gives a lot more time for consideration, research, and comparison during these middle days. So that longer timeline really does put greater demands on brands to stay responsive throughout the days to meet shoppers when they're ready to buy.
Those are all really good points. I mean, in particular, thinking about how competition is, approaching these situations with their own deal days and how that might lead folks to convert on other sites. I think in that context, it does make a lot of sense for Amazon to try to extend the event and make it more difficult for those retailers to see, the easy gains that Amazon's kind of creating. With that, I want to kind of shift gears a little bit and go over to Prime Video ads, which have kind of taken the advertising world by storm, I would say, over the last couple of years, ever since being launched in early 2024. And looking at the 4-day Prime Day event of 2025 versus the 2 days of Prime Day 2024 and the 2 days that immediately followed it, we saw a 91% year-over-year increase in spend on Amazon Prime Video ads, which has in turn, increased our Amazon DSP spend quite significantly as well. A 31% year-over-year increase in the number of ad dollars headed to the Amazon DSP. And this is being driven not only by endemic advertisers, meaning those brands that do sell products directly on Amazon, but also non-endemic advertisers that may sell products or services that are not sold directly on Amazon. And so this is really only just for the Prime Day event, but naturally, channels like display advertising and streaming video, have an upper funnel aspect to them and are really important for discovery. And so, Skye, how are you thinking about what role Prime Video ads and the Amazon DSP might play this Prime Day, not only during the event, but also before and after?
Yeah, I think overall in digital advertising, this is one of the most important shifts we're tracking with Prime Video and the DSP and just its ability to pull more advertisers from not just its own Amazon traditional advertisers, but those non-endemic advertisers as well. And I think in terms of Prime Day, brands really have to think a bit more strategically about how they're building awareness in the lead up to Prime Day. And the DSP and Prime Video are really important tools to build brand familiarity as we lead up to the event, because we see that upwards of 80% of those who are planning to shop this Prime Day say that they're regular Prime Video viewers. And those shoppers, they're anticipating Prime Day, they're preparing for it, they're thinking about it, and they're in a discovery mindset across the channels that they engage with. So the video, Prime Video, DSP, and all of the upper funnel channels that it unlocks can really play a role in helping to shape what those shoppers will be considering later on. They help brands enter the consideration set earlier. And that starts well before Prime Day, because you don't want a consumer to come across your brand for the first time ever on Prime Day. You want them to have some familiarity and trust. And I think it's really essential to support that in the lead up as well as afterwards, because they can be very intentional in their retargeting and trying to convert those new to brand customers into repeat purchasers.
Absolutely. And, we definitely see our advertisers start to ramp up DSP spend about 2 to 3 weeks before the event. So, certainly warming up those audiences. And then to your point, in the aftermath of the event, that spend does stay elevated as folks, try to retarget and get back in front of new customers or any of those folks who might not have actually purchased during the event to try to stay in their consideration set moving forward. And with that, we want to turn to, again, that fresh survey data that we mentioned earlier. We ran this survey in early April, targeting 1,000 US adult Prime members to try to get a sense for how this very important cohort are going to approach Prime Day this year. And I think, off the top, probably the most important thing to understand is that Prime members are, pretty excited for the event. Overall, 88% of all Prime members surveyed said that they were planning on shopping Prime Day this year. That compares pretty favorably to the 81% of the same respondents who said that they shopped last year. So we have folks who are planning to come off the sidelines and get involved during the event this year. Skye, is that surprising to you, or is that more in line with what you would expect given what we know about the current environment?
I think that near universal intent to participate in Prime Day indicates a lot of positive sentiment towards the event, and just how Prime members think about how it's a key benefit of being a Prime member. And I just think it's also a testament to how entrenched Prime Day is in how consumers shop. They know it's coming, they wait for it, and they're planning for it.
Exactly. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's become fairly entrenched, and we'll talk about the extent to which it plays into holiday shopping a little bit later. But before we hit on that, I think certainly the major shift this year is that early reports have Prime Day occurring in June. Obviously, that's a little bit different than its typical July timing. And while it hasn't been formally announced, marketers are behaving as if we should expect it to happen in June. And so we did go ahead and ask our survey respondents how excited they were for a June Prime Day compared to the typical July timing. And the results were fairly positive. 39% said that they would be even more excited. And that share is much greater on Gen Z and millennials, where a majority of respondents said that they would be more excited for a June Prime Day than the typical July timing. And so, Skye, what do you think Amazon's motive might be for a June Prime Day, and do you think it will actually pay off?
Yeah, so I think it's a little bit of an experiment with a goal to capitalize on earlier summer spending. So consumers will be more excited, and I think that makes sense, because who wouldn't welcome a deal earlier rather than later? If we compare it to the October Prime member sale, I think shoppers then, they still know that the best deals will take place during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, so they tend to wait for that to really spend the most. And with the summer, however, they know that Prime Day is the big one. So that's what they're waiting for. And if it comes earlier, why not? And I think that earlier timing can appeal more to Gen Z and millennials, those younger shoppers in particular. I think they're more excited because it's better aligned to their summer spending plans. They're looking at summer occasions, travel spending for travel related purchases, maybe looking at their summer wardrobes. And they're also the generations that are more likely to plan to spend more this year compared to last year versus the older cohorts. And I think from a retailer and brand perspective, it's always better to capture a share of consumer spending sooner rather than later, especially when the economic outlook is still very uncertain and there could be more curveballs showing up. But I think we'll have a clear idea once the exact dates are announced. I think with June, if we're looking at the very end of June, that could start to push into the 4th of July holiday weekend, which is June 3rd. If we look a week earlier, that might be a clearer period for Amazon. So still a little wait and see on the exact timing and what kind of pressure that's going to put on brands in terms of their marketing and preparation for the event.
Yeah, good points. And Obviously there is a lot of excitement around the event and, specifically around the June timing, but that's not to say that there aren't some factors that might weigh on purchase plans this Prime Day. We did ask folks, what factors would likely negatively impact their Prime Day purchases this year. And, we did see 55% say that higher product prices would negatively impact Prime Day purchases. Obviously, folks have been dealing with years of inflation at this point, with prices going up. 45% said the same about higher grocery prices and higher gas prices, which obviously, in the case of higher gas prices, has been a fairly, a newer occurrence with the war in Iran. This survey was conducted a few weeks after gas prices started to go up, so a fairly recent shock, but already a pretty significant share of respondents saying it would impact Prime Day plans. Skye, with gas prices in particular, how do you think that recent shock might influence the types of purchases that shoppers ultimately end up making on Prime Day and the extent to which they'll shop at all?
Yeah, I think it will drive more of the bargain hunting and deal hunting among consumers because they're going to feel pinched by these higher costs at the pump. And this year, we see that the gas prices have surpassed tariffs as a negative impact. And they're just adding insult to injury, as you mentioned, those higher overall product prices and grocery prices as well. So I think shoppers will really be looking to Prime Day to help offset some of those cumulative price increases and effects that they're feeling. And I think this is why we see that their expectations for minimum discounts are higher. 20% might not cut it anymore if products are already 20% higher than they were a year or two ago. So that's why they're looking for the 30 and 40% discount so that they can feel like they're getting not just back to where prices were, but actually getting a good deal. And I think as far as the types of purchases, we'll continue to see the stocking up on essentials and everyday goods being a really important consideration for the shoppers who are looking for more bargains. That's now part of the established Prime Day event, in addition to like the eye-catching deals on things like consumer electronics and gadgets. And I think another way that the higher fuel prices might have an unintended impact, it could actually shift more spending towards discretionary goods, because we're seeing that the higher cost of travel is really standing out this year, particularly airfares. So some consumers might be reconsidering their plans for big vacations, big summer trips to places like Europe, and they could shift some of their spending to smaller splurges at home in response to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really liked your point about folks being more demanding of, what types of deals they're ultimately looking for. We did actually ask the respondents who said that they hadn't shopped Prime Day in 2025, but who do expect to shop in 2026. Like, why are you coming off the sidelines? What's the draw this year? And the most popular answer was that they're, more interested in looking for deals this year. But to your point, the share of folks who are looking for 20, 30, 40% off is quite high. And so in order to really net those sales and for it to be the opportunity that these shoppers think it will be, the discounts are going to have to be pretty meaningful. With that, I want to kind of shift and hit on another point that you touched on, was just kind of the types of purchases that might end up getting made during Prime Day. We asked which product categories folks were most likely to purchase, and certainly clothing, apparel, and accessories was the number one category by far, but a lot of different categories seeing pretty meaningful demand here. Skye, are there any major surprises here or categories that you think might see a bit more of a boost than what the survey results indicate?
Well, I think the apparel boost is a little bit of a surprise, but it does fit into a couple of other trends we've been seeing with Prime Day, and specifically, apparel has been really gaining on those other traditional Prime Day stalwarts like consumer electronics over the years. It's been steadily gaining ground. And we've seen that the apparel category has been very resilient even over the past year with tariffs and all of those concerns. And costs being passed down to consumers. Now, I think this year, the earlier timing will allow more Prime Day purchases to fit into summer wardrobe planning, which is especially key for the younger consumers who are more excited about Prime Day. They're also the core fashion shopping audience. And we've seen Amazon has had a nice bump in younger Prime members as they've expanded the student discount for Prime membership to younger consumers. I think another factor that is boosting the apparel sector is the increasing use of GLP-1 drugs. So we see a lot more consumers whose sizes are changing and they're looking to refresh their wardrobes. And I think that's also impacting and boosting the demand for health, wellness, and beauty-related products. So I would expect those to perform a little better as well.
It's a great point that all those top three categories are kind of tied in with how the impact of GLP-1 might play out, and certainly with especially the apparel side of things being impacted by tariffs, it makes a lot of sense that this would be a really good opportunity for folks to restock that wardrobe without breaking the bank. And to move to another chart that touches on an earlier point you made as well, we also wanted to get a sense for what kinds of purchases Prime members were likely to make during Prime Day, not necessarily the categories. And the most popular response were essentials that they would have purchased even if it weren't Prime Day, 49% selecting that. That said, there are certainly going to be a fair number of day of purchases that weren't considered previously, 40% saying that they're going to make at least some impulse buys. But tying back to tariffs and product price inflation over the last couple of years, I think a trend that we've really observed in a lot of our surveys has been that consumers are just becoming more and more accustomed to expecting prices to go up over time. And so it can put even more demand into events like these where folks want to go ahead and make purchases that they think they'll want later on because they think they'll get more expensive. And I think this ties into another category that performed fairly well here, which is Christmas and winter holiday gifts. It may sound insane to some to get going on winter holiday shopping in June, but 32% of our Prime Day shoppers expect to make Christmas and winter holiday gift purchases during the event. And so, Skye, obviously I want to get your read on, any of these different categories that you want to touch on, but, also on a personal note, are you going to bite the bullet and go ahead and get going on Christmas shopping in June?
So I do not fall into that third of shoppers who plan on getting a head start on their holiday shopping during Prime Day. So my shopping list just isn't that long. It's mostly kids. And though it is a trend we do keep an eye on, and we know that there are more shoppers who start their shopping in the summer, as well as who shop throughout the year for holiday gifts because they have so many people to shop for and because they are facing price pressures. So I tend to wait and see because I'm shopping for kids. I need to know what the hot toys are going to be, and I generally don't know until October, November or so. But I am one of those back to school shoppers. I also shop for my daughter's birthday gifts because her birthday is a little later in the summer. And so I think it might be a little early June for back to school shopping this year because in some parts of the country, kids are still going to be finishing up the current school year by the time that this Prime Day rolls around. But looking more broadly at how consumers shop across types of goods, I think that mix that we see of essentials and planned purchases and impulse buys is really reflective of how consumers generally shop, and it's kind of still a testament to how Prime Day now fits into established shopping habits, in addition to helping to shape them. Because I think Prime Day, it is an occasion in itself, so shoppers are also coming in with that open-ended discovery mindset, and this is where they're turning to refresh deal pages or social media for inspiration. They're looking for what's a great deal, what's a product that I didn't know I wanted or could really use, but is now worth trying because one, it's at a significant discount, and two, at least with Amazon, it's pretty risk-free because of the generous return policies. So brands have to be prepared both to capitalize on that openness to impulse purchases and be able to reach consumers where they're looking on the social channels, but they also have to steel themselves for a potential bump in returns if consumers make too many impulse purchases and end up with a Prime Day spending hangover.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I mean, certainly if you're in that essentials category, you're probably pretty safe. But a lot of folks may make some purchases that they ultimately reconsider. So, good points that it's become a lot of things to a lot of different people. And I think one thing I probably should have called out here is that, that back to school share might seem kind of low at 17%, but zeroing in on just parents of school-age children, we did see a third of those parents of school-age children say they're going to buy back to school products. So fairly meaningful for the folks who do have kids, but obviously less so for those who don't have children who are school-age. And with that, I wanted to shift gears and talk about how AI might play into Prime Day plans. We did ask folks if they expected to use several of the more dominant AI tools during Prime Day, and over 30% indicated that they were going to use ChatGPT and Google Gemini during the event. Amazon Rufus lagging a little bit in popularity, with just 20% of folks saying that they would use Rufus. Another thing to call out here is just the extent to which younger generations in particular are going to be wielding AI in order to learn more about deals and compare prices and all of that good stuff, with over 60% of Gen Z expecting to use ChatGPT and half of millennials. Skye, I really enjoyed a segment that you did recently called the AI-powered shopper's path to purchase. Do you want to talk about some of the themes you covered in that and tie it into Prime Day specifically?
Oh, sure. Thank you. So this was a new format video report that we recently released, where I talked about how consumers are using AI to shop and where it's having the most impact and how they also perceive its influence. And so there were a couple of themes that I want to touch on that are most relevant to Prime Day this year. So one is what we call these AI-powered shoppers. These are consumers who actively use AI in their shopping journeys. A lot of them are those younger Gen Z or millennial shoppers who are really the AI first generation. And now they're predominantly using it for product research and consideration. So it's not driving a lot of the discovery in that open-ended inspirational way we think of, like social media or going to a store and seeing new brands and products you'd never heard of before. What we see is that AI is actually driving a lot of the middle of the funnel research and product discovery in that sense when there's already intent, and it's not driving a lot of conversion either, because the AI ability to make a purchase on AI platforms is still pretty limited. And what we found is that this AI research support is actually extending the consideration phase. So while we might think of AI tools as driving efficiency and helping us to complete tasks faster and more quickly, what we found was that only a third of the shoppers who were using AI shopping assistants said it helped them to buy faster. For the rest, it actually took the same amount of time or even longer. And that's because these shoppers are often looking outside of AI to conduct additional research to validate those AI product recommendations so that they can feel more certain in their purchase decisions. And I think this aligns well with a longer Prime Day, because shoppers then have more time to use AI tools to conduct more product research and make comparisons across products and across retailers. And it really lines up with how the shopping habits are changing with AI use. Another finding was that the trust in recommendations from third-party AI platforms like ChatGPT and Gemini was much higher than in recommendations from retailer AI assistants like Rufus. So again, that's where we see shoppers looking to make comparisons across retailers to ensure that they can find the best deals. And another theme, and one where I think Amazon plays a big role, is around passive AI adoption. And this is where even if shoppers don't intend to use Rufus, it's going to be part of the shopping journey regardless. So we've long had a lot of behind the scenes AI for personalization and things like product recommendation. But now what we see is an AI assistant like Rufus is actually showing up across more of the Amazon shopping journey, even when shoppers don't actively seek it out. So we see things like suggested prompts on product detail pages that will launch a conversation with Rufus. There are now suggestions to authorize Rufus to buy a product if it hits a low price, or even to automate repurchases and purchases off of Amazon. So I think there will be a lot more interactions with Rufus, even if shoppers don't plan to interact with it.
That's a great point, and something that folks like Google are doing as well, kind of slipping folks into AI mode if you interact directly on the SERP, and so it does make those user numbers a little bit wonky. But I definitely love the point you made about the fact that it's not really reducing the number of touch points, and that aligns really well with our survey data over the last couple of years, where we've really dug into how people feel AI tools have changed their habits. And if anything, we typically see them saying, we search on traditional search engines even more now that AI powered tools are available. And so I think that's definitely something that, for now is a very real trend where we're seeing even greater use of legacy platforms alongside the growth of these new up and coming platforms. And so I think with that, I kind of want to transition to looking at the things that we don't know about this year. And I think a good place to start there would be how Amazon is going to approach its Google Shopping strategy during Prime Day 2026. Now, back in 2025, in May and June, Amazon cut its presence in Google Shopping advertising by roughly half. A little difficult to suss out what the motives were, but it certainly seemed to some to be something of a test to see what the incrementality of that advertising was. But after a couple of weeks, they ramped back up and they were back to 60+% impression share in Google Shopping auctions, and they got even more aggressive during its July Prime Day event as it was trying to promote the event and get in front of as many shoppers as possible. But then shortly after Prime Day, they vanished from Google Shopping auctions in the U.S. entirely, and then they've remained absent ever since, except for a small presence from its Amazon Pharmacy arm in particular, which is showing up modestly against beauty and health brands in Google Shopping. And we've seen bumps in Google Shopping impression share from other big brands like Walmart and Target over the last year, but none have really filled the void that Amazon's left. And so what that's meant for Tinuiti Advertisers has been it's a really strong opportunity in US Google Shopping auctions to get a lot of volume that they might otherwise not have been able to get if Amazon were active in those auctions. And we see that in this chart from our recently released digital ads benchmark report, where for the last 4 quarters, we've seen at least 15% year-over-year click growth every single quarter. As again, Amazon's been on the sidelines, and that's opened up a lot of impressions and a lot of clicks that would have naturally gone to someone like Amazon if they were present in those results, but has instead spilled over to its competitors who are now garnering impressions and clicks that they otherwise wouldn't have. And so I think a big question going into this Prime Day is, will they come off the sidelines again in order to, promote their big event? There's been a lot of speculation as to the reasoning of Amazon's absence from Google Shopping. One hypothetical has been that it's to guard its product data from Google's AI shopping assistants, but there are some holes in that, namely that Amazon continues to advertise in Microsoft Shopping, which Microsoft the Copilot might not be as big as Gemini currently, but there's certainly still maybe some competitive factors at play in terms of not wanting Microsoft to have access to that. Additionally, while Amazon has turned off access to Google's Gemini bot, they do maintain a presence in AI overviews and AI mode, so 2 other Google AI experiences, because those 2 use a different crawl bot than the Gemini AI tool. And so all that to say, Google still has access to a lot of Amazon's data through other crawl bots. It's still unclear if that has anything to do with why they've really paused for now, but I think a lot of folks are wondering whether or not they'll stay on the sidelines or whether or not they'll ramp back up for this Prime Day. And so, Skye, would love to hear your thoughts on this or any other unanswered questions you really have going into the event. What are we, like 6-7 weeks out now, assuming that late June timeline? What are you thinking about?
Yeah, so apart from that exact timing in June, I'm really keeping an eye on the new Rufus and AI feature announcements, and I can expect that we'll see some more in the run-up to Prime Day, as we typically do. We've already seen a lot of new features announced. One that I'm particularly interested in is how consumers start adopting or using these off Amazon purchasing opportunities. There's a Buy for Me, which is agentic, and another one that's Shop Direct, that is directing shoppers to retailers that are not Amazon, where Amazon doesn't carry these products. So, and how that brings even more of Prime Day back into Amazon's reach, because one of the broader long-term trends we've seen is that as Prime Day has grown, with competing retailers taking more share of sales during Prime Day period, that shift to the 4-day helped Amazon win some of them back. And now if Amazon can reach further into other e-commerce sites, that's another big step for Amazon to claim more of Prime Day.
Certainly, certainly. Questions that we'll hopefully get a clearer answer to soon. And those are our questions, but also want to kick it to Q&A. And if there are any questions from the audience that we can answer for you guys, we'd love to hear them.
I was just looking over, and it doesn't look like we have any questions. I'm going to give the audience a second before we move on. So if you do have anything, please drop it in that Q&A tab on the right-hand side of your screen so that Skye and Andy can address that now. Looks like no one's taking us up on that. So I will keep us moving through this. I did just want to say, Andy and Skye, thank you both so much for a great conversation, for sharing those Prime Day insights with us. We really appreciate your time. Shout out to Andy, who did lead the development of the Prime Day study. Great work pulling all of that together. For everyone here, if you want to download the study, it is in the Docs tab on the right-hand side of your screen, so you can download that before you head